Hi, everybody. Welcome to our Dogs Know No Borders Rescue Town Hall. It's a pretty exciting one. I probably say that for everyone, but this one is actually really special because we have special guest Denise Mange here, and we also have, I think, pretty much all of our fosters and adopters from the Dogs Know No Borders tour that Brenda, who is here as well, and I did cross country last month. So I should probably start if you are here. I am the executive director of the Beagle Alliance. Our mission is to place former research animals into homes and to advocate for non-animal use in research. In Canada, we do not have any legislation that protects these animals. And so while we advocate for the facilities in Canada to release animals to us, we do help with other organizations in the United States, which is where we so far have placed over 50 dogs from research into homes, but they have all been from the United States, although I don't say that with a but because, of course, it's amazing. Welcome Denise Mange, who is an author, a trainer, a pet intuitive. She has written this book, and I know that a few of you have already purchased it, which is exciting. I want to start for a minute, and I know it's going to be very interactive. Oh, of course, you know what? I'm not going to start because I pulled my mark out. There was a quote in here that Denise said that I was going to share with you. If I find it, I'll do it after. Welcome, Denise. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me. And thank you everybody for joining. And this is such a treat to be able to connect with this amazing heart-centric group of people. The fact that you guys have opened your hearts and homes or been part of the Beagle Alliance mission just says so much. So I think we're in this really beautiful soul pack together, and I'm excited to dig in and learn more. I met Lori, and my first interaction with the Beagle Alliance was in the capacity of executive director working for a nonprofit in California called Pet Rescue Pilots. And they reached out to us because they had two beagles that they had rescued from a lab, and they needed to get them from California to Canada. And wouldn't you know, we had a flight booked. We were able to accommodate the two beagles, who are Murphy and Miranda, who I know their parents are active members of this community. And that was the first time I kind of connected and learned about, lab tested beagles. And then we had Lori come on and talk about fostering lab tested beagles. And that was so interesting. It was incredibly eye opening. As Lori said, I'm a certified dog trainer and a pet intuitive. So I have a handle on, dog training and working with pets. But it was so interesting to hear the peculiarities that we have to take into consideration when they are lab tested animals. So I'm excited to dive in and hopefully contribute with a little bit of a live Q&A, resources as you move forward with the animals in your home. And also, full disclosure, Lori and I are really excited because as of last week, we've committed ourselves and we've kind of set the intention that we're going to come together and write a book that's part advocacy, part kind of a resource for anyone who rescues, fosters, or adopts lab-tested beagles or animal companions. And so I just want to thank you guys in advance, because even this discussion is going to contribute to that mission. We're going to get such great insights from you guys and what kind of questions you have. So you'll be hearing more about this project, but we're really excited to kind of launch it here with you first and have you be a part of this mission. So thank you for having me. And I'm just so excited and so grateful to each of you.
Thank you, Denise. Thank you. So, yeah, it's a pretty special and exciting project that Denise and I are undertaking. And of course, just like running this rescue, it is not possible without you guys. I know that I say this time and time again, but there'd be no rescue without the fosters and adopters, obviously. You guys know the dogs, you go through the transformation, you live it. I can only be the resource as best I can, and we try our best to be there for you guys and answer questions and align you with resources. But you guys do the work, and these dogs are living on this earth to this day because of you guys. So thank you. I would love, I know the dogs are going to make an appearance, but I need you guys to do that. So I think how we're going to do this is that I'm going to throw some questions out there, and I would love to hear from you guys. So I guess part of how we described the town hall was what it takes to do a rescue like this. So I'm gonna be brief on that for those that are here that weren't a part of the rescue that are maybe wondering about that. It takes a lot of logistics. Number one, as I mentioned, the laboratories in Canada are not releasing animals to us. So we do work with partners in the US, partners that we can't name, actually. That's how secretive this world is. How dangerous it can be for the people working in laboratories. Sometimes they can lose their jobs. There's a lot of confidentiality that goes into a rescue, and there's a lot of people involved. It's not always just us kind of knowing all the details. This last rescue that we did, we have no idea what state the dogs came from. We have no idea what lab the dogs came from, and that is the norm. That's what usually happens. When we get a call, we don't usually have a lot of time. And then for the last, I guess, year, have then called my friend and volunteer Brenda, who you probably, well, many of you met, and you can see on the screen. And thankfully, Brenda is so detailed and goes about figuring out our entire map of where we're going, where we're going to stay, where our stops are. When you have 10 dogs and you're traveling with 10 dogs, you know, their safety is your number one priority, obviously, and getting them to where they need to go is right after that. And so it is quite a logistical nightmare. It would be for me if I didn't have Brenda. So there's a lot to that. And of course, as many of you guys know, we have to reach out to fosters who have put in applications. We have the conversation with them and their families. We do virtual home checks with them. We call their friends and make sure that they're as fabulous as they seem, usually, and thankfully they are. And, and then there's a whole bunch of documentation that's involved. And then, of course, we set out on the road and, try to fit in sleep here and there. So there's a lot to it. And if you have any questions, raise your hand. I'm sure myself or Brenda would love to answer. And then, of course, I do need to, at this time, have to say that B is here on screen as well. She can wave too. B is the behind the scenes website and IT specialist, but also Brenda and I sort of landed at B's for this rescue in our sheer exhaustion and just needed B to take care of us, which she did. And so we're a small team, but because of the people on this town hall, we were able to have a really smooth, an incredible rescue where the dogs just did fantastically, and there's been some struggles, but they're still progressing. So I'm going to throw this out there because I want to stop hearing my voice, but I'm going to throw this out there to you guys who have fostered and or adopted the dogs from this rescue. If you want to bring them on camera, we want to see them. But tell me, was anything different than what you thought? Like how when we arrived or when it was the first 24 hours of having the dog, what were your thoughts? What were your fears? What were your struggles? What can Denise help you with even now?
Oh my gosh. And Tara has a little puppy on screen. How sweet. Oh my goodness. Do we know who that is, Lori? Can we unmute Tara maybe?
Yeah, I unmuted. It's Spirit, but we named him Archie.
Yay!
And how's Archie doing?
He's doing well. He's been with us for just a little over a week. He's doing really well. Yeah. I mean, he needs training, and
Yeah.
all of that, but we're working on that slowly.
I love it. And how did you come up with the name Archie?
Well, Archie means courage and spirit, and his name was
Aw.
Spirit. So I don't know, like in the labs, did they have names? Like, was he called Spirit in the lab, or is that a Beagle Alliance name?
That's it. That's a great question. And this is a little bit heartbreaking, but for the most part in the laboratories, they are numbers.
Yeah, that's what I
And
thought.
yeah, and they are numbers. And so we named them we named them names. This particular group, we named them names as best we could to depict our Western Canada trip. So
Yeah.
that's how the
So-
names, yeah.
So my husband and I, we wanted to keep, spirit kind of part of it. And that's what Archie has, it means. And then we had a beagle, not a rescue beagle, but she passed away of old age, and her name was Abby. So Archie, had with the meaning, and similar to Abby, it means a lot to us. So that's where that name is derived from.
That's beautiful. And speaking of numbers, I also I love combining traditional training techniques rooted in positive reinforcement, but also bring in intuition and pet numerology. So the reason I asked about the name is I think pet parents are always so intuitive, right? And sometimes it's almost like a name comes to us. And Archie seems so perfect. And I wanted to share a few things about Archie. When I look at the numerology of Archie's name, at the end of the name with the IE is 95. And when I see that 9 and 5 side by side in numerology, it's a healer's number. It's a big healer's number. And all the numbers of his name add up to the number 8. And 8 is the number, I always think of 8 as the beautiful leader, the number of the lion. And who is more courageous than that beautiful lion in the jungle? So sometimes as pet parents or fosters or adopters, the name we give them holds a vibration for them to step into. And this seems like the perfect name. So thank you for sharing. Oh my gosh, how beautiful.
Thank you.
Yeah. And any training, I mean, are we okay to jump into questions, Lori, or should we save that?
Absolutely. Let's just go with everything. I want to hear from you guys. I do not want to hear my voice. So you guys go.
Yeah, do you have any training questions, anything that you're working on that maybe you're looking for some tips, or do you feel like you guys are communicating and you've got this? It's just little by little.
So we've only had Archie just over a week. We've started something called clicker training, which I'm sure you're familiar with, but it just takes time and patience. And so he seems to be learning. I mean, it's not perfect, but like I said, it just takes time.
Beautiful. I love the concept of clicker training. And for those of you who might be joining us, but you're not familiar with the term or exactly what it is, maybe you heard it, but you don't know how it works in practical application. The clickers, how like they train dolphins in SeaWorld, right? So basically, if they want the dolphin to flip, they're going to wait for the dolphin to do all sorts of things. The second the dolphin flips, they click it, and literally it's a clicker that sounds like that. So it's like click and a sharp noise, and then they throw a fish. So the dolphin says, every time I hear this sound, I get a fish. What was I doing in that moment? So they become problem solvers. They try all sorts of different behaviors. The second they flip, throw the fish, oh, got it, they want me to flip, right? So the clicker is fantastic because it's a very distinct sound. It's instantaneous. My click sounds like your click, sounds like your partner's click. But the downside is sometimes if it's 3 a.m. or if I have a coffee and a leash, having the actual clicker itself might be a bit cumbersome, or we don't have the bandwidth for it. So an option for anyone who still wants to adhere to clicker training, but isn't quite sure they have the use for the clicker or want to use the actual mechanism, an alternative that I use in my training is the word yes. Because if we hit it, yes, good job, it kind of gets their attention. We can really drag that S. It's quick, it's short, just like a click is. And a lot of people say, okay, I like using a word, but why not good girl or good boy? And what we realize is good boy or good girl is a bit too long and it's not as sharp as that click. So if you are interested in clicker training, but you don't want to use the clicker, you might consider the word yes as that alternative. And it's such a good, I love that you're doing that, Tara, because it's such a good way to communicate with that's exactly what I need you to do. That's exactly what you're getting the reward for. And it builds their confidence. They become problem solvers. So that's fantastic.
And I just want to chime in. I like the yes because I am always making sure, and you guys who are fosters and adopters know this when we have our conversations, that I'm always mindful of what a sound trigger might do to a former research animal. So the yes is a nice alternative in the event that a clicker is triggering to the dog in some way. We never know what sounds are going to trigger them. It might not be that it's the actual clicker. It might just remind them of something in the laboratory that might cause them fear.
That's a great point. And also
right?
with yes, or using our voice, we can modulate the tone, right? Because one of the biggest principles that I know, especially when we're working with animals where we don't know the background or they might have some sensitivities, sometimes yes might be a little too intense. So intuitively we feel into how do they respond? Is it a yes, good job, little one? Or is it a yes, well done, little? Right. So it's just about feeling what tone, the amount of energy that works for them. I work with a lot of some puppies, they love the excitement. That's a part of the reward for them. And then I've worked with a lot of rescues where for them, the reward is space and quiet and predictability. So if we use a more calm, soothing tone, that tends to work better. Also, situationally, if we are rewarding them for being in the crate and hanging out or being calm and cool, collected around a trigger, a softer yes works better than if we're playing, then we can use something a bit more exciting for them. So as pet parents, if we're using our voice, we get to use our intuition and feel into the modulation of it. What scenario or what kind of dog prefers the different energies.
Yeah, the goal with the clicker is to not use the clicker at some point and him to understand the different commands.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, Lori raises a really good point about, being mindful of triggers, but it seems like you've worked with Archie with it. He's doing well. He's thriving. So the fact that you're opening those lines of communication and building his confidence is tremendous. Thank you for opening your heart and home for Archie and giving him such a powerful and beautiful name.
Thank you.
Thanks, Tara. Anybody else? I know that there's a couple of issues going on, but I don't want to call people out if they don't want to chat. So please raise your hand. Thank you, Mary. Yeah, love it. Okay. So Mary.
I have a question, Lori. It's Connie. It's Connie.
Oh, hi, Connie. Sorry, you're not. You're on my second screen. Hi, Connie. Okay, Mary, Mary, we're going to get to your issue because it's a little bit in depth. So go ahead, Connie. Thank you for being here. Connie has Astro. There's Astro on the screen.
Yeah. I guess, and Lori knows this. Lori brought us Astro to the Toronto airport. So she was wonderful. And because we're in Windsor, Ontario, so my sister and I drove to Toronto to pick Astro up. He has taken a very, very long time. We have another beagle who is a rescue, but from the streets of Detroit, but we've owned 3 beagles previously, and we've never had one that was this shut down. And Lori knows this, when it has taken him so long to just adjust. It's been heartbreaking, actually, but slowly but surely. He, he's still very frightened of noises. He still startles easily. We're still having problems with potty training because the other beagle from the streets of Detroit isn't very good either. But anyway, I think that's what we have noticed most. We've never had a beagle who is just so frightened of everything. It was so sad. It was so sad. So I don't know what was done to him or why he was like that, and maybe some others aren't. What have you noticed, Lori, when you rescue these beagles? Are there some really shut down and others not?
Yeah, and that leads me to the question that Mary is going to get to. We're going to talk about Mary, and I'll just speak to this before you speak to this, Denise, and that thank you, Connie, because
Okay.
it's important to know that Brenda and I landed to meet Connie basically 1 year ago in September already. So we are hitting a year. So,
Yeah.
you know, I know, like, I'm not the most patient person. And so I understand when fosters are like, oh my goodness, you know, he's still scared after a month. And for the most part, they start adjusting and progressing after that month. And the foster period
They
we
do.
have is a minimum 4-week period. And you know, we see the progression, but there are a few that are just more shut down than others. And Astro was definitely one of those. And now it's been almost a year. And so, yes, we do see that. And we do see, of course, they don't know how to walk on a leash. They've been in a
No.
cage their whole life, right? They don't know how to play with a toy. And of course, I'm speaking to the choir here because most of you guys have either experienced this or know this from us having a conversation. But for those who have come in that, again, don't know what it's like to you know, to talk about a former research beagle or dog, no, they don't know what a threshold is. So they don't know how to go in and out of a door. And, you know, I have many people applying to foster and adopt who they maybe don't have another dog and they want to help a beagle, and I love them for it. Of course, they want to help, but it's my job to figure out whether a particular dog is going to thrive in a home without another dog. When they first get out of the lab, we really hope that they'll have another dog in the home because there's only so much we can teach them, and they need to know and learn from another dog, learn that the dog is going in and outside the door and it's safe. Learn that that thing over there that dog is playing with is called a toy, and I can actually have fun with that. Learn how to walk on a leash, which, you know, we have very, very strict protocol on double leashing and what particular collars to use for the safety, because these, first off, beagles in and of themselves are escape artists and scent hounds. So on a good day, a beagle is considered untrainable. And I say that laughingly because, of course, you know, we've all worked with our beagles and they get to a certain point and they're great, but there are certain things that you're never going to let a beagle do. And that's, you know, run around for the most part, not on a leash unless it's a confined area. They're what's called a scent hound. So of course, anything they smell, they're going for it. And these dogs are in a state of PTSD and anxiety, just like humans, means that their response is the fight, flight, or fear response. And these dogs, being the escape artists that they are, along with the fact that they can be triggered, I am telling you, they can get out of anything.
Yeah.
And so, you know, we have to be very careful and mindful of that. The potty training, Connie, as you know, is something that, I mean, you're 9 months in or whatever, and it's still an issue. So I'm going to stop now. And Denise, potty training is a thing.
All right. And I'll get off. All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Connie.
I'll get off. All right.
Connie, beautiful. Thank you so much, Connie, for sharing Astro and even just kind of looking at him and seeing his reaction. He is so lucky that he's landed in your arms. You know, it's not every foster family or adoptive family that, you know, to Lori's point, would be open or understanding of the situation, and you just have held him in your heart, in your arms, and it's so beautiful. So a couple things come up. The first is, before we even go into the potty training, is one of the things that I noticed with Astro is, even with the numbering in his name, grounding is an issue for him, being present in his body. Because just like humans, sometimes when we go through traumatic events, we tend to dissociate from our body he seems like he really did a lot of dissociating previously before he came to you. So one of my favorite things to do in those moments, if he'll tolerate it, and I think he will, given the way that you guys were kind of sitting together, is putting one hand on his heart and the other on his back and taking deep breaths. And that helps just kind of ground him back into his little body. So we're not going to apply a lot of pressure. We're going to do just enough that feels almost like a little baby being swaddled. Just kind of holding him there and taking these long, deep breaths, because as Lori mentioned, our dogs learn really well from other dogs, but they also learn from us. One of the strongest ways we connect with them is energetically, but also through our body language. So part of what I'm going to ask you to do is have these little moments. And I'd say, as frequently as you can throughout the day for maybe, 30 seconds to a couple minutes, maybe 5 times a day if that's possible, 2 times a day, whatever works, where you just kind of hand to heart, hand on back, take some deep breaths. And ideally, you might have to start with him kind of in your lap, but ideally we get to the point where we're building his confidence, where he actually has his little 4 paws on the ground, or he's on the ground himself, kind of having his own connection and tethering to the floor, and you're still doing that exercise. And you can even get into the point where you lie down next to him on your back and you take these deep breaths. But I find that our animal companions, whether they're rescue beagles or otherwise, they really benefit from any of the relaxation and kind of like meditative practices that we do in the day. And those deep breaths are one of the most powerful ways for them to understand that all is well. So that's going to be one of the things that we want to do, leveraging our body language, hand and heart to ground him. And if we want to throw something in like soft spa sounds, or even one of my favorites is if you go on YouTube and you search Reiki music loops, that's REIKI. They have like 6-hour loops. If you just have that going on in the background throughout the day, randomly here or there, it's actually meant to work with our energy centers and our animal companions' energy centers. So it helps just kind of be this almost energetic massage for them as well. So that's one thing that I think is just going to help bring the anxiety down and get his body, his little energy back into his body, so he doesn't feel as dissociated. So that's kind of step 1 before we can really move on to anything too intensive. The second thing, which is really interesting, is so we talked about traditional dog training. I also am a pet intuitive. So just kind of, if you're comfortable with me tapping into his energy, what he was showing is, because he's been one of those dogs who's always been in service of others, everybody's always been directing him what to do. When there's no one directing him what to do, he's not quite sure what to do. And it creates a little bit of insecurity in him as well. It's sort of like, if a kid was only allowed, vegetables, all of a sudden, if they go to an ice cream store, it's a lot. Like, what do you even choose? I don't know. And you kind of shut down. So with him, giving him jobs to do is going to be really important. Even as simple as, all right, little one, I need you to kind of focus on me as I do the dishes. I need you to kind of support me in the space. I need you to sit and eat your food. So thinking of even the most basic things that you can kind of transform into jobs, almost like gamifying the training and adaptive experience, so that there's these little milestones that he's able to hit consistently, and we can celebrate it just as much as if he did something major, right? Good job, little one. Wow, you ate all your food. That's tremendous. I'm so proud of you. Even just that energy is going to help him understand, like, oh, okay, I'm doing these jobs. I'm performing. I've got these duties to do at home as well. That will parlay to the housebreaking. I know housebreaking is one of those really tough ones, right? Because if they had been in a space where either they're in a crate all day, or maybe they're allowed to wander free and there's no real direction on where to go to the bathroom, that's a very strange habit for them to kind of understand that there's one particular spot. So if you happen to come upon an accident, one thing you can do is get a wee pad, put it upside down in the accident, and kind of put it in the place or in the area where you would like him to go. So we start kind of training him with his scent. And as he gets kind of closer, we need to kind of mellow out, right? Because the one big drawback with housebreaking is it's a really important task we want them to do. So oftentimes, as they're like, going to the bathroom or thinking about it, even if I'm not saying anything, in my energy, in my head, I'm like, oh my God, go, yeah, that's a good place, that's a good place. Right? Even if it's like a good thing going, they pick up on that energy, and now it's all intense, and they're like, yeah, I don't know what's going on, and their bladder kind of gets shy. So the more that we can be calm, kind of direct them to the spot using, their own scent. And then if they are treat motivated, which a lot of beagles are, but not all, giving an amazing treat is going to be really special. So any way that we want to work with our animal companions, if there's a task that really is important to us, we can let them know by creating a sliding scale of rewards. So 1 out of 10 might be a piece of their kibble. 10 out of 10 might be something really delicious, like a piece of string cheese or a little bit of chicken, or, something that they get excited by. So that if they're just sitting in the home or not doing anything too tremendous, yes, here you go. Here's a little piece of kibble as like a thank you. But then if they do something major, like they're getting used to triggers outside for the first time, or they're going to the bathroom in the correct spot, you can give them a 10 out of 10 treat. That way we're communicating, this was good, this was amazing, and we really are making it worth your while because we know it's hard for you. So those are a few tips. And I don't want to overwhelm, but those are just kind of some things to start thinking about.
Thank you, Denise. I want to read, I found what I wanted to read out of Denise's book. Okay. This is something that I have found over years of being somebody who's had dogs, but mostly someone who's had horses, because horses are so sensitive. They're prey animals. They're not predators like dogs, and you have to address them in a different way. And they take to your body language and energy in ways that you could never imagine, and that can obviously be dangerous for you because they're huge animals, and they react in ways. I used to think when my horse the tail was swishing, I was like, oh, he's wagging his tail. And I'm like, yeah, no, it's a horse and there's flies. Like the horse is not happy to see me. That's not the language. So I just want to read this because this is something that I find is just most true. And really, really was, and I'm going to call you out, Charisse. You were just sitting there with Odie. And this is profoundly exactly what happened. And Charisse, I'd love you to share, but this is a portion of what you say here, Denise. They are inextricably linked to our well-being. These healers and teachers, inextricably linked to our well-being. One of the most profound roles our animal companions take on is that of a mirror, reflecting back to us our own energetic terrain. I am a person who's believed that, I fundamentally believe that our animals choose us. I think we as humans think we choose them because we're humans and we think we're the, be all end all. I think they choose us, whether it be for a short time or a long time. It's not a time factor. They choose us for what they need at the time. And they also teach us some very profound things about ourselves. When my girl Poppy likes to walk on my kitchen table, for instance, Brenda then reflects to me that I'm a bad beagle mother. And so, but I think that's such a profound statement. I think it's something that it's a powerful teaching tool also to train our dogs, because it puts us in check of our own emotions and what we might be bringing to the table to the table with an instinctive being. And I know that it's Copper on the screen with Charisse right now. And Charisse adopted Copper 2 years ago, one of the very first rescues that the Beagle Alliance did. But Charisse also just most recently adopted Otis, and Otis was from one of the most traumatized group of beagles that we rescued last year in September. And Charisse was not going to, they were not going to adopt. They were going to foster to help us out. And time went on, and you know, sometimes it takes time to find a home, and also Odie wasn't making the progress that we thought he was going to make, and we had other experts working with him, and you know, Charisse and her husband James worked a lot with him, and they finally said, you know what, it's been this amount of time, he's starting to unwind, we're going to adopt. And it was awesome, but also it was interesting. Would you agree, Charisse, that within a 2-week span from the time that you made that decision, go ahead.
In basically 48 hours, I was starting to see small things where he was more willing to explore. Like, he's still very scared, but he wanted to reach out and sniff things. And in the last 2 weeks, I've seen him walk up to our neighbors. I mean, his body language still says, I'm scared, I'm terrified, but I'm curious. And I want to smell you. I want to find out who you are.
And we think it's because the energy changed, right? It was like a snap of the fingers. The minute he knew that he wasn't going to move, and that and that's not to say the fostering is what we need. Obviously, we don't expect all of our fosters to adopt. That's not an expectation we hold. It's just interesting that he had been there for so long, and it, you know, he probably knew he was going to be adopted before you did. And he was like, what's taking you so long, Charisse?
What are you waiting for? It's funny because a friend of mine told me once, because this happened to her. She was fostering a dog and ended up adopting it, even though she's like, I don't want this dog. But she says, sometimes you don't get the dog you want. You get the dog you need. And my husband has PTSD from a traffic accident. And he told me, Odie is my barometer. When I'm bad, Odie's bad. But when I'm having a good day, Odie's having a good day.
Denise?
So, I mean, he's still terrified to go outside in the dark to use the yard. But if I'm with him, he'll at least go wander in the yard.
Yeah.
Doesn't like the rain, doesn't like the snow, doesn't like the dark.
What are your thoughts on that, Denise, given your quote, which I love?
Such a beautiful story. Thank you for sharing that, Charisse. And it's such a testament, right? Our pets absolutely act as mirrors for us. And even beyond that, what's really cool about our animal companions is they can play different roles for different people in the family, right? So for your husband, he might be that barometer. For you, he might be in a slightly different role, which is you learning to kind of have that moment of tuning into his body language, his energy, and helping him move past it. And I would expect that as your husband goes through some of those challenges as well, you're also watching him closely too, and making sure if he needs help to feel comfortable, you know how to step in. So it's really beautiful how Otis can play these two different roles. But regardless, our animal companions absolutely reflect what's going on in our life. They help us move past, different challenges and obstacles and build our own confidence. And even the story, I think you guys hit the nail on the head, right? Once he felt in the energy, the security of like, okay, it's official, I'm staying. Now it's like, okay, well, then I'm ready to take the next step. He was taking he didn't want to overstep, right? He was taking the lead from you. When she's ready, when they're ready, then I will take the next step. And that's often what our animal companions do. They hold that space for us. They serve as the dress rehearsals for us to make bigger decisions, broader decisions in our lives, and see ourselves in different capacities. Oh, look at all the love on that.
This one, Daisy, she's my little hooligan. She's my naughty girl.
And what's her name?
Daisy.
Daisy? Oh, Daisy. I love that. So the beauty of Daisy is she starts all heart. Okay, so Otis starts all family, by the way. His name it starts with the 6. And whenever we have an animal companion that starts with 6, family is his life. Right. So with Otis, he might not, it's great that he's interested in neighbors and he's starting to check things out and explore the world around him. But to him, family is home. He is the one who, like, if you were like, all right, we're going to be couch potatoes and never leave the house, you'd be like, sign me up, I'm in. And then his overall name vibrates at an 18/9, and 9 is the old soul compassionate, right? So Otis is the old soul compassionate who helps us step into our bigger gifts, our bigger abilities, our bigger missions here, our purpose, whether it's within our family and our pack or even more broadly, right? Because all those gifts, all those abilities that you're getting with being able to watch each of your animal companions and know them intimately and know their signs intimately, that translates to being able to read a room in a social situation, at your job. So it really, all the skill sets that they're helping you step into translates. Now, Daisy, her name starts with a 4, and she is all heart. And the beauty of Daisy is she vibrates at an overall vibration of 22/4. And in numerology, we have master vibrations, right? And so 22/4 is a master vibration. It's all about the heart. It's all about new foundations and ways forward in love. And the beauty of it is, through her sassiness, she provides a stability. Because if all your dogs were perfect and meek and, a bit more quiet, there wouldn't be the balance. So she brings the balance of the sassiness to some of the more shy and reserved animal companions. So there's this beautiful balance in your pack.
That's amazing. That's awesome.
And the funny thing is, she is the mom of the pack.
Yeah. I love that. Yeah.
We don't mess with mom. We babysat my aunt's beagle. He was like 8 months old. And when he would not settle down and kept, how puppies are, puppies and young children, they don't know where the line is.
Yeah.
And so when she had enough and he wasn't listening, she let out a bark, a vocalization.
Yeah.
And even I sat up a little straighter. I'm like, oh, mom, sorry.
And I love that because it's also such a good reminder that boundaries are so important, right? Especially when we're dealing with, rescue dogs or lab tested dogs. We tend to eradicate all boundaries because our hearts just, bleed for them. We're like, oh my gosh, they've been through so much. But we forget that boundaries equal security. Boundaries don't always equal, taking things away or not allowing. It's about providing the security and the trust of the boundary. Because as benevolent leaders, if we can set those boundaries, if we can create nap time throughout the day for them, if we can create little mini protocols of before we get the food, we do a couple fun commands. All those things help them feel more confident, trust you as a leader, and now they feel they can really relax because they're taken care of. So I love that you brought that up. Older female dogs are so great at setting boundaries, and it's the reminder that we are there to do the same. I love that, Charisse.
That's amazing. And I wanted to speak to something before we got to Mary, and I lost the thought because there was so much in that, Denise, so it'll probably come back to me. But thank you, Charisse. That's so, it's interesting, the family part of that. There's just a whole host of, I know what it was. It was a little bit about the resource guarding, and this is something I've got two things before we get to Mary. And Mary, I'll give you a second to maybe you want to bring West/Stewart online, but this is something that I chat about a little bit too, is that what happens sometimes with these dogs that go into homes is that people dote on them a little bit extra because, of course, they're traumatized animals, and we think about what could have possibly been done to them, and we're mortified as humans and as empaths and as dog lovers, right? And what happens is that we tend to dote on them a little bit more, but in their world, and this is just what I see. Denise, you could probably speak to this more so as an expert, but in terms of experience, this is what we find happens is that a resource guarding situation happens because now they've ultimately been given this power. Like they first off, beagles have the power to manipulate like no other. Number one, a beagle in general, even just a beagle who is okay, not traumatized. But when we focus on them and dote on them, they've never had anything of their own for their whole lives. And now they've got a person and they've got a toy and they've got unbridled attention, etc. And so we'll find that in some cases, not always, but in some cases, they'll they start guarding the thing that they've never had, whether it be the person, whether it be the toy, whether it be the food. And their aggression doesn't necessarily come out of aggression. If they snap back or if they get angry, it doesn't come from the place of aggression. It comes from the place of fear of loss of that thing that they've never had before and now they have. So we really try to prevent that as opposed to dealing with it after the fact. So we have the conversation where we say, don't dote on this dog. This dog is coming in, obviously you're going to deal with this particular animal and the individual needs given a former research animal. However, no extra special treatment. No, oh my goodness, you need to, have the throne because, you live this horrible life. Not because you're being harsh, but because they need to just come into the home, realize they're part of the crew, and everybody's equal. And that way they don't become, for the most part, as possessive as they might if in fact, there's that extra special attention.
Yeah. Beautiful. So a few things, and I could not agree more. And that's such a good illustration of what a potential situation is, whether it's a rescue beagle or a rescue dog, period. We are empathic. Our hearts, are just wide open for them. So just to start off the discussion, there are a couple things, right? When we are doting on our dogs, that's usually how the supplicant dogs in the pack recognize the leader, right? So if we're constantly on them and, hugging them, it's the equivalent of a dog going to leader and licking on them, trying to please the leader, saying, hey, we respect you. We're here. We, thank you for your leadership. So the second we start doting, we're kind of putting them in a leadership role, which is way too much stress for them, right? They don't want to be leaders. They're just coming out into this world. So think of doting as something that actually might be something that puts more pressure on them. The other thing to keep in mind is that we tend to personify our animal companions, right? Who does not love cuddling their dog, hugging on their dog, doing the baby talk? But the problem with that is that's how humans show affection. A lot of dogs, they'll begin to like it because it's a learned behavior, but that's not truly how dogs are hardwired to recognize affection. For them, affection and respect comes with interaction. So if I'm speaking with them, if I'm doing obedience commands with them, if I'm kind of integrating giving them jobs to do in the pack, that's how they feel love, affection, and kind of part of the group. So that doting can be counterproductive. The other thing, from an energetic standpoint now, is when we are empaths and we're doting on our animal companions, it's because it's coming from a place, to your point, Lori, of sadness, of guilt over what happened to them, of, what must you have experienced, little one? Our animal companions pick up on our energy. And then what happens is what I call empathic cycling. I start like, oh, little one, oh my gosh, even if I'm just thinking about what their life might have been like, now they're sucking up and absorbing that energy, right? And so they're picking up on it. They're like, oh my gosh, she's not doing well. What's going on with her? Now the dog's insecure, and then you're picking up on their kind of sense of being upset as well, and you're picking up. So it becomes this endless cycle. So when we are interacting with our animal companions, the more empowering, still gentle, still loving, still compassionate and collaborative, but just if we can be mindful of that empathic cycling that tends to go on between pet parent and pet, that's going to be really helpful to just mindfully cut off that cycle of the like, oh buddy, oh my gosh, because we really want to come from a place of empowerment. And then, lastly, I know I'm talking a lot, but that fear of loss and the unpredictability, that's something that I think even all of us can relate to in our lives. What are we trying to hold on to? What do we feel like if we don't grab onto this opportunity, this relationship, this moment, this, financial windfall, like where do we feel we're going to lose it? So if you do have an animal companion who has that resource guarding or the fear of loss, or like, I don't know when I'm going to get this again, so I better kind of hoard it. It's also an opportunity for us to look into our lives. In our careers, are we feeling that we have to grab onto opportunities? Financially speaking, are we feeling like there isn't enough to go around? Do we feel like in our relationships, it's a zero-sum game? It's either they win or I win. Where can we kind of bring more stability and balance to our mindsets as well? Because when we talk about that empathic cycling, if I'm coming from a disempowered mindset and energy, they pick up on it. But on the flip side, if I come in with an empowered mentality, an empowered frame of mind, they pick up on that as well. So we can use it to our advantage.
Excellent points. I love it. I'm gonna thank you, Denise. I'm gonna go. I want to hear from Mary, because Mary and I have been working together. Mary's done all the work. Let's be serious. But but Mary is fostering West, whom she is calling Stuart. And Brenda and I, let me just say that these particular rescue dogs were very different for us. We've seen some very, very traumatized dogs. In fact, Connie and Sharice's group of their dogs were from some very, very traumatized dogs. And we never know what happens to them, but in this case, they were shaved at the flank. There was insertion holes. We actually saw physical examples of what could have happened. We were never told, but there was physicality there. And then, of course, we saw it in the behavior and the fear after. This particular group that we rescued, we were told one thing about this group. Not where they came from in terms of the lab, as I mentioned, but we were told that the veterinarian who was in charge of this group was actually pro-enrichment. And so what that meant is that, number one, he, I don't even know, advocated for their release. So he advocated for their release and rehoming, which is, something that we're trying to get them to do in Canada here in facilities. But also that this doctor believed in enrichment programs. So these particular beagles actually socialized. Whereas most of them don't see each other. So when they do a first meeting, they've not really had interaction other than hearing other dogs in the confinement areas of the laboratory, etc. But this doctor believed in enrichment, and so they attempted to have them socialize. They attempted to walk them and try to teach them a little bit about the leash. So this particular group was far more socialized and less fearful than I think Brenda and I could agree that we had ever seen in the last couple of years. And it was a blessing, of course. It makes it easier to travel with them. It's clearly less heartbreaking. And of course, it makes the job of our fosters that much easier, because it's hard work to be a foster. It's emotionally, mentally, physically hard work. Mary got the most fearful, fostered the most fearful of the dogs. This dog at the events that we were at, and Brenda could agree, wouldn't come out of the crate. And then when he did, he was a little unpredictable. We knew he was the most afraid. Very loving, very sweet, no aggression, very afraid. And Mary is dealing with that right now.
Yeah. First of all, sorry for not muting myself when I was rummaging around for my laptop cord.
No
My
problem.
battery is going dead. Well, I'm finding this very helpful for me because, yeah, as Lori was saying, the dogs were enriched, and like, so I see, 3 have been adopted, and on videos, they're looking like typical normal beagles. And my beagle is, so I was feeling, what am I doing wrong? Like, I just, when he first came, for the first while, for decompress, I'd have the classical music on. He's beside me on the couch, and I'd massage him and just getting him to relax. And he just won't get off the couch. I just can't get him off the couch. So when I get him outside, he loves being outside. He'll be in the backyard, sniffing all around and sniffing the cat and sniffing another dog, and he just loves it. I'll go out the front door for a walk. He loves it. His tail's up high and he's sniffing the ground, and he loves his walks. He's good on the leash. But in the house, he will not leave the spot on the couch here.
Mhm.
Hey, Stuart.
Sweetheart. Hi, friend.
So the whole time he's in the house, he's in the spot on the couch. So if we want to go out, I put his harness on, and I'll say, come on, Stuart, let's go pee pee, or with a wiener, come on, chicken, like nothing. No, there's no food that will made him off the couch. There's no, oh, he's such a brave boy. There's no encouragement that'll get him off the couch. He just trembles on the couch, and he will not leave the couch. I feed him on the couch. I give him water on the couch. He just won't leave the couch. So what I have to do, the only thing I can do is put his harness on and lift him on the couch. And then he just puts the brakes on, like, I don't want to go anywhere. So I'll kind of lift him to the door, or else pull him a little bit to the door. And now he's got the point where he used to be super scared of the door. But now if I have the door open and he gets closer to the door than he is to the couch, he'll look at the open door and just run 100 miles an hour right out the door. And then he's fine. He'll do his thing outside. But it's getting him off the couch, and that fear of getting off the couch, the fear of just walking to the door, which I can't understand, because he knows he likes it outside. He enjoys going outside. But the fear of getting off the couch is just overwhelming for him. And I have not come up with a strategy that is effective in getting him off the couch. So I was feeling, as a foster parent, like, what the heck am I doing wrong? Like, I felt awful. I felt awful. Like I'm doing this dog a disservice, because whatever I'm doing is not right, because he won't get off the couch.
No, Mary, you are the opposite of disservice, whatever that word is. You are giving a tremendous gift.
Agreed.
So a couple things when it comes to Sweet Stuart. He's used to 2 ways of being, right? He's used to 2 states of being. One, in the where he has to perform his duty, and the second outside. So for him, he doesn't understand what it means to have an in-between world, to have a world where there's all these different states of being and times. Like, he just knows those 2, right?
Yeah.
And so when he gets to that door and he looks outside, there's always the fear of the unpredictable. He doesn't know when the other shoe's going to drop, is kind of the energy behind him. Like, When is this going to happen? When is this going to end? And then I have to go back to that situation. He's got a little bit of that PTSD in his mind. There's a couple things you can do when you're outside with him after he's had a chance to run around and sniff. Grab that leash if he's leashed up, and I want you to practice something that creates grounding and predictability for him. And it's almost like a wedding procession. If he knows a sit, ask him for a sit, or just simply look for eye contact so you guys connect, and then take one step. 1, 2, 3, stop. And then wait for him to sit or look up at you. Yes, give him a little piece of sausage. And then just like a wedding procession, we're going to mindfully walk down that 1, 2, 3, stop. Yes, little one, well done.
Well, that's what we do when he is outside. He doesn't want to come back in. So now, I do keep the leash on him because I was having a hard time connecting to bring it back in the house. So I can grab the leash.
Yeah, so the reason we're doing the 1, 2, 3 stop is this becomes a game that we do. We're going to start it in the place he's most comfortable, but eventually the thought will be we can translate it to 1, 2, 3 steps off the couch. Stop. And it's a game that he feels is predictable. He knows this game. We're not saying get off the couch and go anywhere. We're saying we're doing this game. The other thing that I think is really important to honor is, his story reminds me of this wonderful dog who was a rescue dog from a hoarder situation, who was actually on that hoarder show. And the executive producer of the show, or the producer at the time, found this dog. His name's Neville. And he was like, this dog needs a home. The family who I met adopted him, in love with him. But Neville, he would come over to my house when his parents had to leave, and he did that exact same thing. He sat on the couch. He wouldn't look at anyone. He would just sit there. He wouldn't move. And when it was time to leave 3 hours later, we could convince him to go outside. Outside, he was fine, but like that was his thing. And he did that for solid, I want to say 2.5 months, maybe longer. And it was really just allowing him and not making a big deal about it and not putting the pressure on him that we have to get off the couch. But it was me kind of walking around being like, hey, Ness, what's up? Just kind of normalizing life, pretending like, yeah, it's cool that you're on the couch, no problem. And then he felt less of the pressure, because a lot of times also when we're like, am I doing something wrong? Should I be doing more training? It creates stress around him being on the couch, getting off the couch, and it puts a lot of pressure on them. So I would say, start playing that game outside with the hopes that eventually it translates and he understands that you guys walking together is a fun, rewarding thing, and allow it to translate in his terms. By the end of my stint with Neville, he was sleeping in my bed with the head on my pillow. He was barking at us for attention, and we've never been more happy to have a dog be sassy than we were with Neville, because, we felt like he ruled the roost. Then we're like, he's comfortable. This is huge. So just say allow the space. Sometimes it's just allowing things to unfold on their time without the pressure.
Yeah, well, I never pressure him. Well, about 3 times a day he has to go to pee to relieve himself. But the rest of the time, he'll just be sitting here and I'll be in another living room. Hi, Stu, how you going? How's it going? Go over and give him a pat. Like I don't make him get off the couch just when he has to go to the bathroom. And the game, I like that idea with the game, because now when he's outside, I used to have to either carry him in or kind of drag him because he would have to come in. But now I find when he sees me coming, he crouches and I'll pick up the leash and I'll go take about 3 steps and come on, Stu. And he'll take those 3 steps and then he'll crouch again. And then I'll pat him. I'll say, good boy, what a brave boy you are. Come on. And he'll get up and do another 3 steps closer to the door. So
I love that.
Maybe if I throw a treat, it might be more enticing too.
Yeah, and those 3 steps are perfect, because even if we had all the runway, ever, 3 steps, most dogs can do the 3 steps, and then we reset, and then just 3 more steps. Yeah. The other thing that you can do and combine with it is start singing. And so it might sound a little silly, but even just row, row, row your boat gently down the stream, and just sing that merrily, 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 merrily. Life is what a dream. Good job, bud. Row, row, row your boat. Because then what happens is when we're singing something rhythmic and chanty like that, it creates predictability in our voice, our breathing, and we're just kind of doing our thing. So you might try even combining that audio cue with it too, to just kind of bring the energy down and let him know, like, then he can predict, like, okay, boom, okay, the music is stopping. Got it. Music is stopping.
So at some point then he will, like, we'll get so far in the yard, about 10 feet from the door, and then there's no way he's going to take another step. So at that point, like, it's getting dark, he's got to come in the house. So I'll either pick him up or I got to pull him. But if I pull him in, the brakes are on and he's just petrified. And then I bring him in, I close the door, and then he just sit there, and then I'll take his harness off, and then about a minute later, he's like a beeline for the couch, like 100 miles an hour, jump on the couch, and that's it.
Yeah. And I mean, it makes sense. So the same way that he is kind of petrified leaving the couch, think about those two states of being. His only other option coming in was, now you perform your duty. So or that we can just, as you've been doing, of course, sometimes we need to help them in, carry them or give them a little extra incentive. Just know it will come with time. The more you do these games, you open lines of communication, let him know, okay, go to couch. You're even like directing him, go to couch. And so when you walk by him, Stuart, good couch. Stuart, good couch. That way we're even communicating to him outside, go to couch. You're just going to your couch, bud. Don't worry. It's not going to all of a sudden change into the old place. He's just confused between those two state of beings. He doesn't understand the in-between anymore, So with time, he'll trust.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Yeah. And thank you for being patient with him. I mean, what a gift you're giving him. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Oh, I have all the patience in the world. I just wasn't sure I had the expertise.
You're doing great. And I will say pet parents are usually a lot more intuitive than they give themselves credit for. And as much as I'm a pet expert, you're the expert and you've got that energetic connection with Stuart. So trust your gut. There's you're never, knowing your purity of heart and your intention, you're never going to do anything harmful. And you can always reach out for a second opinion, if you have questions. And hopefully we'll do more town halls like this. But trust your gut, and you're doing just right.
Thank you.
Yeah, and thank you both. And I want to speak to that because that's a big thing. And this is something that comes up with having fosters, and that's something that at the Beagle Alliance we take a lot of. I don't want to say pride, it's maybe not the right word, but we do really care to offer you 24/7 support. As most of you text me, and unless like if it's not an emergency, I might not get back to you that minute, but we're pretty good at responding, I think, because we want you to feel comfortable and feel like you have a person or people to share your good times and your struggles. Like I encourage all of you to send me photos and videos all the time and are so grateful for them. But I mean, let's really put this into perspective. You guys, none of these dogs, we would not be able to say yes to a rescue if it weren't for your care about animals. You can't fail. You can make mistakes like we all do, but we're all just getting through, and we don't know the individual dogs until they're in your home anyway. So I'll never be able to coach you on what to do with that particular dog. We have no clue when we get the dogs out of the labs, what they're like or who they are. So we're getting through this together. There's no failure here. These dogs would, I mean, as harsh as it is, these dogs would not be alive if it weren't for you guys. So, don't do that to yourself. Don't just, that's my, if I were to, say one thing to fosters and adopters, above all, it would be just don't be that hard on yourself, because you have saved lives, and we're getting through it together. So, You know, we usually go an hour and people start kind of zoning out. And we've gone past, but I think it's really important. And I hope that the town hall has met the description that I put in, which is talking about rescue, having the dogs on screen. They're always, all of our town halls are very casual and we kind of go with the flow. But I wanted to do a couple of introductions, if you don't mind. And oh man, if you're on camera, I'm calling you out. Okay. I'm going to assume if you're on camera, you're okay with me calling you out because we've had some moves go on. So like, for instance, you know, Glenn and Dalek, they fostered Cassie. They had the event in Kelowna where we had news. And I mean, we had Mary was there and Monica was there and they fostered Cassie and now Leah has Cassie. And I know there's there's some potty training stuff going on. And please like flag me if you want to chat about something, but also I want to do a quick introduction because we have a move that's coming up. We have a move that's coming up. And so, Monica's had Dakota for a while now and has been working with Dakota, which has been great. And Linda and Ron, I think you're still on here. Forgive me, I'm looking. Yep. And they're going to be picking Dakota up and they've not met Dakota. So I mean, everybody just takes a leap of faith when you foster. It's just the coolest thing. So Monica, I'm going to get you to have Dakota on the screen. But you know what? Before we do that, and before I forget, I want to do this for Denise right now, because I'm focusing on one screen because again, I want to say we're on Teams now. We used to always have Zoom and I could see everybody, but I see Michelle's here. Okay. Chris and Michelle are here. And I'm putting you on the spot, guys, because I think, okay, so wait, did I make a mistake? No. Is Michelle? Is Miranda in the house?
Yeah, she's
Okay.
there on the couch.
Yes, because, okay, Michelle, Denise. Molly now, pardon me. Yes, that's right. Denise and I knew her as Miranda. And so, but I wanted to do this because I don't know if you heard this in the beginning, Michelle, but Denise was part of flying Molly to Canada.
I didn't know that she was involved in that. And actually, funny enough, we've been calling her the Red Baron because I didn't know she was in an airplane before until I saw something through your Facebook thing. It was the flight with her and Murphy.
Yeah.
And I was like, wow, she is the Red Baron.
They are, Molly and Murphy just, you know, we had so many special passengers, so many special flights. You know, every pet that we could rescue was a tremendous gift to us. You know, we felt honored to be able to do so. But let me tell you, when our team, there was something about Molly and Murphy that we just fell in love with because we didn't know what to expect with lab tested beagles. We figured they'd be, you know, cowering in the back. They were so brave. They came up from the back of the plane, hopped on Pilot Gary's lap, and we're checking out the cockpit and doing their thing. So I texted Pilot Gary today. I'm like, oh, I'm hopping on. I'm going to keep my eye out for Murphy and Molly. And he's like, oh, if I can join, he's flying right now. But he said if he could join while he lands, so I'll have to tell him, oh, there she is, popping her head up. So I'll have to tell him that
That's so awesome.
Yeah, thank you.
No, we're very blessed to have her. She wasn't without her issues, but a lot of things that you've been saying tonight, I wanted to say have held true that, you know, you do have to set those boundaries and get rid of that mindset that, you know, poor dog, and put out that good energy that you have expectations just like any other dog, that I know you can do this. Little baby steps with training. She's pretty well adjusted dog. better than we anticipated. We were set for anything. And like I said, she still has a few issues. It took her over a year to like boys, I keep saying. But you know, she can be pretty vocal. She is a very vocal dog. So, but giving her the little small commands or boundaries that you don't just get to bark at me when you eat, you know how to sit. Good. Start with that. And then after a while, or, you know, go to your bed. If I give her little tiny jobs to do, her behavior switch, you know, she focuses, she knows that she can do it. And, you know, now I could have her sit for 30 seconds in front of a food bowl before I say, okay, and release her. And she's all nice and calm sitting. We put the food down. There's no diving for the food. So, you know, it just takes work and patience, like everyone is putting up with, but all the little antics. But yeah, she's taught us a lot too.
Oh, I love that. Well done. And what a sweet little pack you got there, just snoozing away.
Oh,
Yeah, it was awesome because after 2 years, as I was saying to you, Denise, after 2 years, I got to meet Michelle and Chris, and I got to meet Molly. It was amazing. And I did meet Murphy too in person. I know Brenda's laughing right now because there's absolutely no way that my dogs would wait 1 second before a food dish. So I heard Brenda kind of laugh, and I'm like, I know that's Brenda just laughing at me. But thank you. Yeah, I'm so glad you guys got to meet like on this. It's amazing. So Monica, let's see that guy. Here's Dakota.
He's snuggled up with me. I have
He
treats in my
is.
paw.
He
I have
looks
treats
like
in
you have
my
to
paw.
lift his head.
Come on.
Hey,
My other
bud.
beagle will get, because as soon as he sees the treats come out of my pocket, he come. Does that wake you up? Oh yeah.
So sweet.
There you go. Yeah. This is Dakota. He is the sweetest little boy. I guess big boy. My beagle is quite little, but he is so sweet and precious. And we've had our problems, but every day is like, he just amazes me with what he'll walk out the door and he'll just, one day he won't do anything and the next day acts like he's done it his whole life. He's just super sweet. He's cuddly and he plays and he's calm when he needs to be. So he scoffs and sighs like he just did.
So Linda and Ron are actually, and Monica was one of our fosters, just like Glenn and Dalek, that they were always fostering from the beginning, which is amazing because again, we have sometimes last minute rescues and we have fosters who will repeat foster for us. And it's great because they're our first calls like, hey, we need you even for a short time while we get these dogs. It's just a blessing. And so Monica had said in the beginning, I'm going to foster. I would like to just foster. And so, yeah, Linda and Ron are working. We're going to set this up for, I guess we're coming up on June 5th, actually. And so, yeah, this was a great opportunity for you guys to see him, if not briefly. So Leah, do I get into Leah? Do you want to chat?
Hold on. No, I think it was covered. Cassie's been great. She's very cuddly, as you can see. The fosters did a great job with her. But yeah, she's very, very comfortable. But I do get this sense like whatever Big Brother does, like I can see why you need these dogs with another dog. And Diablo is very, very calm. But yeah, whatever he does, she wants to do. And whatever, like if he's walking with her, she's so much more confident. And if he eats, she eats. If he goes outside, she wants to go outside. And she's just constantly working on him. So yeah, so it's been going pretty well. Yeah. Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah,
Well,
she's a sweetie.
I just, I guess we'll close here unless anybody wants to raise a hand or flag me down. I hope that anybody who wanted to chat had an opportunity. We will certainly stay on if there's more questions. But again, please feel free to email us at info@thebeaglealliance.org or myself personally, Lori at thebeaglealliance.org. And I mean, Denise, I would love, if Denise, you want to pop your email in the chat, whatever, we're always connected. So your questions will not go unanswered, of course. But I just want to thank you.
Marilyn had a.
Marilyn, sorry, Marilyn.
I have a problem. I only have a little problem, but my dog is eating her feces.
Oh, yeah.
Like I just have to be right there on top of it.
Yeah, okay. That happens. So I'm glad you asked that. So a couple things, and was your dog lab tested, kind of that same?
Yes.
Okay, same profile. Okay, just wanted to double check. So a lot of times they get into that habitually because if they went to the bathroom in their crate, they wanted to clean it up. So it feels like, you know, given her background, that's probably her motivation was, let me clean this up because I like a clean workspace and living area. And then it becomes something that is habitual. So there are a few things we can do. One is if she does go to the bathroom, the second, you know, she's done with her number 2, good job, little one, and drop a really high value treat, kind of bring her away from it, even if you have to go right to her nose and use her kind of nose to get her away from it. And then you scoop it up. Okay. That's one way we can try to redirect her and get her attention elsewhere. So that, and what we would do is then we'd be very consistent. So if it's a little piece of hot dog or whatever, she like loses her mind over, like our version of pizza McDonald's. It doesn't have to be the healthiest thing because when she gets it, it's just really high value, right? Okay. So redirecting her is important. The other thing to keep in mind is sometimes the food that we give them, the kibble we feed them or whatever the food is very rich. So it smells as good going in as it does coming out. So we can do that. I have had clients who chop up pineapple and put it in the food. It has an enzyme that makes it the poop not smell so good of an exit. Oh. And they also sell over the counter some powders that are supposed to have that same kind of enzyme that does the same service. But given that she was in the situation she is, I think it's just more of an habitual, like trying to clean up her workspace, and then it's just what she does. So if we can interrupt that pattern and redirect her, that's going to help. The biggest watch out with this is as we go to scoop up her little present to us, make sure you do it quickly but neutrally in our energy. Because if all of a sudden we're going for it like really fast, now our dogs are like, wow, that must be something really valuable. I'm going to devour it first. So remember, interrupt and kind of redirect with a really good thing away from her little gift, and then scoop it up discreetly without making a big deal. And let's see if that helps get her out of that habit.
And I want to add to that too, nutritionally, something that I've used before is something called diatomaceous earth. So if you Google diatomaceous earth, I don't know, Marilyn, I can't remember the exact amount you would give, but sometimes it's a nutritional issue. And so looking for that diatomaceous earth, it's something I've given my horses, I've given my dogs. I just can't remember the ratio, but it might be, if it's a nutritional thing, that's something to look at too. And you can see how much to give per pound or, you know, how often, etc. So that's another tool. Okay. Yeah, I have one of those too. I like Tara. I watch her like a hawk. Yeah. So yeah. Well, thank you all. Thank you all so much. I just, this has been incredible. And thank you, Denise, for navigating through all of this with us, because, you know, I know it sounds cliche, and I do say this often in posts and in my words, but it really does take a village. This is the community we're trying to build to make it easier for us in helping these animals transition and giving them a second chance. And again, I cannot say this enough. We could not do it without you guys. So thank you from the bottom of my heart. Our team thanks you. It was an
And thank
incredible
you.
rescue. Well,
And
thanks,
thank you for
Victoria.
everything you do.
Yeah.
Thank
all of
you.
you.
It was an incredible rescue, and it was just we felt anointed the whole way. It just, the people were perfect. It was just really one of those magical, aside from that 18-hour drive, the one day. If we didn't have Jody and her team from Barks, we probably would have cried. But
I think I
mean,
was crying.
yeah, I think you were crying. Yeah. It was incredible. And I thank you. And please know that we're here for you. Reach out at any time. And we're working on a rescue and hoping to do another one at the end of June and have more dogs coming to people like you. And again, we will be reaching out because Denise and I are going to work on our project, and it's going to include a lot of information that you guys have shared and questions and concerns that you have. So thank you.
Thank you.
And thank you guys for hosting me and inviting me. And I definitely need to
Absolutely.
come back and do this regularly, because to Lori's
Perfect.
point, without you guys, we couldn't do anything in rescue. I mean, you guys are the end all be all. So anything we can do to support you would be amazing. And Lori, just personally, I know your passion. I know the hours you put in. I know your dedication. Thank you for making this all possible. So I appreciate all of you guys hosting me here, and I can't wait to do it again.
Yes, thank you. And just as a little reminder, here's the flash, Denise's book. If you want more of Denise, please, it's on Amazon. It was on the link actually in the town hall, and we've posted it, and we'll post a little something this week, about the town hall. So thank you guys. Thank you, Denise. Thank you, B, for all of the tech to make this happen and beyond. You guys have a great rest of the evening and weekend, and just know we're here if you want to reach out. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, take care, guys.
You too.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.